What was your high school's wildest NSFW scandal? Story 1. Dubbed the urinator, they kept finding urine puddles in the school hallways, stairwells, and the handicap elevator. The school had cameras everywhere, but they never saw someone just peeing in the hallway. No one knew how it kept happening without someone being caught. Turns out someone was peeing in a Gatorade bottle, and in between classes when halls were full, they would just randomly spill it somewhere and no one around them noticed. The method only got found out when the bottle with some leftovers was found in a trash. But they still never found who actually was doing it. Story 2. The football star at my high school was accused of sexually assaulting a 4-year-old child and went to jail for it based off very little evidence. He was sentenced to 25 years. It was my junior year, and it was his senior year. He had a full-ride scholarship to play football, and he, along with everyone else, really thought he'd make it to the NFL. He served 3 years of that sentence when the county's new DA looked over his case and saw that there was basically no evidence. So he was released. This was in summer 2017, and he was officially exonerated last year. Turns out, it was his best friend, who looked just like him and lived with him, who did it. Dude is doing really well now. His girlfriend stuck with him through the whole thing, and they're married now. There's actually a documentary on Showtime about it that just came out. Story 3. An English teacher would make out with a student during his planning period while his wife was teaching classes next door. After school, he would make excuses to his wife about having to stay late at school and meet the student at hotel rooms. He was led out of the school in handcuffs in front of the entire school. Funny enough, the cops gave him the opportunity to go out the back door of the school and not make a scene, but he refused. Story 4. Our science teacher was a porn star in a past life. Someone in the school found a video she was in his dad's porn stash. It was a huge scandal in our conservative town. She was let go, which sucked because she was really an excellent teacher. It became a national news story. She was on Dr. Phil about it. Despite numerous campaigns by the students, she was never hired back. Story 5. Not even a scandal, just a widely accepted rumor. English teacher was purported to select one male per senior class to try and woo and sleep with. My friend claimed his older brother was that year's selection, prodding him to strive to do the same. Unfortunately for him, another uninterested. But he actually was, resulting in her petting his arm, giggling at his jokes, bending over in front of him, etc. She left to become a principal at a different district a few years later. Story 6. The soccer coach was sleeping with 4 of the soccer players, 16 to 18 years old, 2 of them being other teachers' daughters. They had it completely secret until his wife found a journal where wrote about each time he slept with each girl on the team. At the end of the school day, we walked out and there was 4 to 5 cop cars, and they were walking him out of his building in cuffs. If I remember correctly, the girls didn't have to come back to school for the rest of the school year. It was close to the end anyway. Everyone found out their names pretty quickly. Biggest scandal at that school in decades. Story 7. Long story short, a student was caught having fun with a sheep at the tiny farm the school ran for the agricultural elective students. Edit. So since it's been asked a few times, the only slightly longer part of the story was that the class was, as stated, an agriculture elective. Once a student had completed enough required worksheets, they got to go over to the farm and do some work instead of sitting in class writing. Not exactly easy, but it was nice when the weather was cool. This guy had the class for both morning sessions, so he said he'd just stay over at the farm and get a ride back at the end of the next class. Well, amongst other incidents, he was not the brightest bulb in the box. Seems he lost track of time and the next class came walking up to the barn with him balls deep in the sheep. Word was, the sheep didn't seem to notice. Story 8. This was a year or 2 after I graduated, but there was this one teacher at my high school who was fired for in no particular order of weirdness. Buying booze for students. Smoking weed with students. Buying weed for students. Buying weed from students. Writing a paper for a student for a different class in exchange for weed. Driving certain students who skipped school to a bar in a different city several hours away. Sending a student a completely unsolicited text that said, "I've never wanted to cheat with anyone in my life, but I want to with you." Offering to buy a student a $500 knife and give it to him at school. Explaining it thus: "If I can walk around campus with marijuana on me, you can walk around with a shipping box with a knife in it. Kiddo, you can't walk around campus with marijuana on you." She was the scripture teacher. That position at that school, at least when I was there, was as cursed as the defense against the dark arts job at Hogwarts. Story 9. We had a football coach fucking one of the cheerleaders. I was so blind to it all. He was my positional coaches and had respect for him, so I never believed it. He never talked about it, and I was friends with that cheerleader, and she always denied it. 2 years after graduation, they got married because she was already pregnant with their second child. She dropped out of college her first semester and became a stay-at-home mom. Her Facebook page now is just really sad. It has been almost 16 years since we graduated, and she still seems miserable. All her dreams just vanished, and she is still married to that coach who is getting older and fatter. He is over 60, and she is in her 30s. Story 10. There was this younger, smoking hot female teacher at my high school. Her boyfriend was on The Real World, and she did a visit on the show wearing a super skimpy bikini and talking about her BF's dick. Everyone had already had a crush on her, but this pushed it over the edge. I don't know if she quit teaching, but I don't remember seeing her around school after that year. Story 11. One of our history teachers had been a stripper before becoming a teacher. This was years earlier. She was a stripper before she even went to college to get her teaching degree. We found out about this because the father of one of my classmates had been a regular customer of hers and recognized her at a student-teacher conference. He told his son, who obviously told the entire school. Story 12. We had a charity thing in high school where you'd raise money for cancer. The amount being raised was shown on a thermometer, and every limit would force a teacher to shave their head. On the very top was this French teacher. Anyways, the initiative was due to finish after lunch recess. A bunch of people are in gym shaving their heads and trying to raise money. Bills are flying down from the bleachers, and we raised just enough money right at the bell. The French teacher was not down and ran away, causing all the students to chase her into the bathroom, banging on the door and shit. She soon after had a bit of a mental breakdown. Someone at school found out her Lava Life profile and she left. Also, some student stole all the money raised in the initiative from the gym. Story 13. We had this kid who was super pissed about his ex-girlfriend getting with a new guy, so decided he was going to kill the new guy right in front of her. Their class was all lined up outside for gym, and he walks up to the guy, goes to pull the gun out of his pants, accidentally hit the trigger, and shoots himself in the dick and through his thigh. He ran just far enough to collapse on my English teacher's doorstep. He survived. Edit. I'm sorry, folks, I honestly do not know the fate of the penis. I just remember all the parents and teachers being so concerned about the students' "oh no, school shooting," and we were all, just what kind of fucking idiot shoots themselves in the dick? Story 14. I think this happened right after I graduated, but I was still friends and neighbors with the PE teacher. One day while changing, one of the students thought it would be funny to shit in his own hand, carry it into the gym, and throw it at his friend who had already changed and was waiting for class to start. The teacher was too shocked to do anything at first, but it splattered off the other kid's shirt, and then that kid started projectile vomiting. It started a chain reaction, and multiple students started dry heaving and then puking onto the gym floor, running out. The gym was closed down for like 2 weeks and had to be repainted. The hardwood floors refinished. The kid who carried out the shitfest received no punishment from the school, and the teacher moved to a different school the next year. Also, the wrestling coach got arrested for possession of child pornography and inappropriate behavior with a few students. Story 15. One day we all came to school, and the front office, which was surrounded by glass, was shattered, and we all just assumed some asshole vandalizing the school. A couple of weeks later, the police came and arrested our principal and one of the vice principal. No one knew why. Turns out that one of our other vice principals, super young dude, maybe early 30s, had fingered/made out with a girl in my class, seniors, was 17, who was also the daughter of the varsity football coach. She was dating my friend's older brother, straight degenerate druggie, and the older brother found out and came and threw a rock at the glass building. Our principal and vice principal knew and covered it up, so they go arrested. Eventually, the guilt vice principal was charged and sentenced to a couple of years in San Quentin. He now has a YouTube channel and came out with a book about his time in prison. Story 16. We had this weird science teacher. He was your standard mid-50s creep, but he had a really bad stroke or something that required part of his skull to be removed, so he had this huge seam on his head from the metal plate. He used to make girls stay behind after class and wash the lab tables while watching them. It happened to me a couple times, but I was never more than just a bit creeped out. The next year, he vanished very quietly. Also, someone started a preposterous rumor that I was pregnant. My mom was 14 when she got pregnant with me and promised to make my life a living hell if I ever got pregnant as a teen. So that ruined the rest of my teenage years with her. Thanks, high school. Worst years of my life so far. Story 17. School cop was on patrol one night. Pulled over a 18-year-old senior he knew for speeding. Don't know who initiated it, but they ended up fucking in the backseat of his cruiser and she got off. We all found out when she was telling her buff. The BF's mom overheard and told the police department. His punishment told he could no longer be a school resource officer. This was back in like 6. He was fired from his job this past year for failing to go to a 911 suicide call and preventing a fellow officer from going to it for almost 30 minutes. Oh! He also told the guy whose house the woman was found died in that he was headed there. Story 18. When I was a freshman, I started to secretly date a junior boy on the football team. He was embarrassed by me because I never partied and was in PP classes. Chubby with big glasses, etc. Anyways, he tried to pressure me into giving him my virginity one night after his mom had taken us out for dinner. When I refused and stood up to go home, he got very angry and physically tried to keep me from leaving his room. I yelled loud enough for his older brother to hear, and brother and mom got him off of me. Mom made dude apologize and then drove me home. By the next week of school, a rumor had gone around that I was having fun with some of the football team. The junior boy I had dated had been the one to start this rumor, claiming that he had to break it off with me because I was obsessive. The real scandal ended up happening during a math class that I had with him. He would always make a point to sit as close to me as possible and try to make me watch him touch himself. One day, I sat in front of him so I wouldn't have to watch that show. During a movie, the lights were dimmed, and all of a sudden I feel something wet on the back of my neck and running down my back. That pervert had jerked off behind me and put his handful of cum down the back of my shirt. I jumped up and made a commotion. Fortunately, I had a couple other girls who also came forward from different classes with this guy, all younger females, all with perverted stories about his behavior towards them. My dad made a holy hellish scene until the boy was suspended. Much more happened, but I tried to shut it all out. Shit was not flattering like dude tried to play it up as, but fucking nasty. Edit. Not a movie, it was one of the projectors common in math classes in the 1990s. 2000s. It was a push to even get him suspended. I wasn't even able to get out of having classes with him once he came back. 19. This happened in a span of 3 days. 2 freshmen were caught having sex in the bathroom, in a hall where everyone passes by. 2 days later, 2 freshmen were caught smoking weed in the school bathroom. Fucking freshmen, man! Girl tried to commit suicide in the parking lot a week ago. Also, some dirts put Confederate flags on their trucks and started screaming the South will rise again in the school. I live in Michigan. Story 20. Well, back in middle school, I decided to pull this pranks. Every week during the Friday afternoon announcements, my school would do some sort of raffle for students who have behaved well. To get into this raffle, you'd have to do a good deed in front of a teacher. Then you'd earn a ticket, and then you would put it in the raffle jar. So I decided to do a bunch of good deeds, and I earned 3 tickets. With the tickets I earned, I put the following names in the raffle jar: Mike Hawk, Mike Hunt, and Hugh Jazz. I thought it'd be the funniest thing ever for one of those names to be called during the announcements. So, the following Friday, the name Mike Hawk was called during the announcements, and a lot of people burst out laughing or giggling. Since the student Mike Hawk did not come to receive his prize, they kept repeating the name for him to come to the office. For those who don't get the joke of the names, try saying them out loud and faster. I put fake names with puns in them in a school raffle. The name Mike Hawk was called on the announcements. Hilarity ensued,